media at irondequoitchamber.org. We don't want you to miss anything, so just bear with us while we work on that still. Also, we're looking for one member volunteer to join the annual awards committee. So this is the awards committee, the banquet that we just had, where we do person of the year, best renovation, best new building, and all that. We'd like someone from other than just board members, we'd like another member to be on that committee, so we have more input. So if you want to do that, you can raise your hand now, or just contact us. Okay, upcoming events. Next month is Women's History Month, and we're going to have a woman named Jane Plitt. She's an author and small business advocate who wrote about Martha Matilda Harper and her impact on women in business. That's our March luncheon. And then a couple of weeks, actually, we're going to have a networking event at the Union Tavern down in Seabreeze from 5:30 to 7:30. And Dave Seeley and I are sponsoring that, our businesses. So we're going to do that actually in conjunction with the Penfield Chamber of Commerce and the East Rochester Chamber of Commerce. So there should be a lot of people there. And then lastly, there on March 26th, we're going to be co-hosting an open house at the sale at the Ronald McDonald House over at the Skyview on the Ridge there. So join us for that. Okay, now, without further ado here, I'm going to bring up Dave to talk about the state of the town. And he didn't bring a sledgehammer with him
today. Skinny podium. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, we'll just try and project. Thanks, Alice. I just want to thank first Alice and all the chamber leadership, the executive board, for all the hard work they do. A lot of it goes, I don't say taken for granted, but it's a lot of behind the scenes. But really, you wouldn't have a chamber of commerce without people volunteering their time, energy, ideas, money to make sure that our community still has this very important resource. And I preach the values of chambers of commerces because I really do think they are important for a community for a number of reasons. When I worked for the governor back in the early part of last decade, I worked for him throughout the entire 11 county Finger Lakes region, and one of my biggest partnerships was with the number of chamber of commerces, chambers of commerce, not commerces. Chambers of commerce throughout the region, and just all the good work they do to promote not just the business community but promote the town as well. So they're an invaluable partner for us at Town Hall, and I'm always delighted to be a part of what they do. So give Alice and her team a round of applause. So prior to this morning I was downtown providing a presentation of the county transition report. Never let if your friend gets elected to county executive or any high-ranking office, never say, "I'll do whatever you need me to do." Sucked in running a transition and helping with that, but I joked there that I had to come here next to provide a state of the town, and I said, if for some reason I start talking about Skyview on the Ridge or various Irondequoit neighborhoods, just let me know and I'll switch back and compartmentalize correctly. So the same goes. If I start talking about county DSS or the jail or anything, just give me a signal and I'll try and get back on track. So nice day. Good day of talking to people to hone my skills as an oral communicator, I suppose. So this is the fourth time now. It's hard to believe the fourth time I've had the pleasure of addressing the chamber to give an update on what's going on with the town. I always appreciate the opportunity. It's a very diverse set of stakeholders here representing kind of all of the cross-section of our community, business, finance, education, not-for-profits. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mike McRae and his team for providing us the opportunity to be here. This is a great facility. St. Anne's always does a great job, and they're a great partner. But it's always nice to come here and just, you're kind of the heart of the community, so to be able to tell you what's going on, to listen to your concerns, I always embrace the opportunity. The past few years, I waited till the end to talk about what is undoubtedly probably the largest priority and largest project, the largest consumer of oxygen in our town, and that's the former Irondequoit Mall. Mainly because my hope is, just because it's a challenge, I would hope I would always go over my time and wouldn't be able to get to it. But I kid, but last year I think I said over the course of 2019 you would start to see tangible things happening there, and that teased kind of our progress with the community center, and ultimately the community's decision to move forward with that, but also some potential other projects that are coming to fruition. So right now, if you've driven by the former mall, we don't say Medley Center anymore, we're passing a town law to retire that from our town's nomenclature, but the former mall or Skyview on the Ridge, now you see construction activity taking place. You see the outside of the facade of the building being redeveloped and kind of that whole elevation that the owner had proposed. On the other side, facing Ridge Road, you're going to start to see the transformation of that area where the old food, well, not the old food court, but that north-facing entrance turned into our community center. And I always say this, I'll get to some of the other signs of the momentum there, but I say this often, in Irondequoit, we didn't choose to have the mall become a part of our story, yet through no fault of our own, the mall's plight kind of became an existential threat to the town of Irondequoit. And some people might say that's hyperbole, existential threat, that's baloney. But I always said Irondequoit has so many wonderful attributes, whether the neighborhoods, the schools, the people, just that sense of community, to have one huge albatross, one dark cloud, either distracting or blocking all the great things in our community. And for a while, that was what was happening. When people thought of Irondequoit, they hopefully thought of the good things, but right there in front of everyone was that big challenge that we had, that 1 million square foot empty mall. And when I call it an albatross, but when something like that impacts the image and psyche of your community, it is a threat. It's a threat to your existence. It's a threat to you being a vibrant community. And for too long, I think we hope things would get better and hope they get better, but we really started to take action 7 years ago, working with the former Supervisor Adam. We canceled the tax agreement. That facility had been vacant for 25 years. Well, I'm sorry, it was 25 years old and was almost entirely vacant. And I'm proud as a community, we started to fight back. We ended the tax abatement. We not helped to get the new ownership, but certainly paved the way and held the previous owner accountable. And I say that because it's really taken us a while to garner momentum. If you think, the tax abatement was canceled 5 years ago. It was sold 4 years ago. It's taken a while. It takes a while to get to a point where you're starting to see visible proof of that transformation. But I think now you're starting to see that momentum come. And I'm proud that the town of Irondequoit is part of that transformation. We recently broke ground on the new community center. I'm proud of the process that we went through to get there. I'm proud that as a community we made a decision, we had a conversation about it, and allowed people ultimately to make that decision. And I recognize it was not an overwhelming decision. It was a slight majority. So our goal really was to, moving forward, not make people second guess their decision to maybe oppose it, but help them see the value and help them see the return on the investment and what it can mean for our community. And our job is to execute that project in the best manner possible. So we will continue to enter into major construction probably next month. It's a difficult project. It's they say square peg and round hole. It really is. It's not a big box we're working with, and if we had more green space in Irondequoit, perhaps like other communities, it would be a little easier. But it's a challenge we have, and I say we're able to provide a recreational amenity we don't have in Irondequoit that other communities have and enjoy, while helping play a role in the transformation of what has been our biggest challenge, but now I think is turning into our biggest opportunity. So we continue to see positive signs at the mall. And I'll mention 2 other projects that we're very excited about. And I think people, once they see the enormity of this project that I'm going to talk about, will recognize that really things are starting to turn a corner. Passstone Corporation will hopefully, in the next month or so, break ground on a 160-unit senior living facility in the old Sears, as well as construct a new 4-story facility next to the Sears. The elevations on that look remarkable. When you see what an old Sears, and they said Sears was the they said, come see the softer side of Sears. So of course the Sears box was the ugliest box of all the malls because it was more mechanical and for automotive, but that is going to look phenomenal. And I know St. Anne's is looking to locate there. I believe they have a lease signed, and I've learned once you have a lease, that doesn't mean you're completely moving forward, but our hope is that St. Anne's continues to pursue perhaps some adult daycare over there. And I will say, I'll leave you with this with the mall. Once we broke that ground, you started to see a lot more really legitimate interest. People calling my office, the owner getting calls. So I think now, hopefully, you're at that tipping point where the mall, people see that it is being redeveloped and want to play a part of that. I always used to say, and I think this was true, people were very reluctant to be the first into a 1 million square foot vacant facility. And I think we were very close to having some significant tenants there, either private or public sector, or not human services sector. And there always was a reluctance just to be there, out of the fear that you'd be there by yourself, right? So now that we're starting to see that activity, I hope that sends a message to other potential tenants that, you know, Irondequoit Mall is being transformed into something that is a community asset. So check that off. That's my update on the mall. And I you know, again, I don't never say, I was just using an analogy with Rich talking about a housing developments. You never spike the football too early. We are by no means finished with this, but and we have a long way to go. And we're always mindful of that. And we can have good days, but we know that there's other challenging days ahead. So it continues to be our number one priority, that mall, and while not distracting from everything else going on. Throughout our business corridor, you're the Chamber of Commerce. You're obviously interested in business. I'm pleased that you're still seeing people investing money in Irondequoit. You've seen some redevelopment of parcels on our business corridor, particularly Ridge Road, but other parts of our business arteries as well. You saw a new ESL branch open up on Hudson Avenue that replaced a shopping plaza that had probably seen better days, and to see that come to life again was good. You're seeing new businesses open up throughout town, whether it's the Titus Cooper neighborhood, whether it's down in Seabreeze. We have two new great restaurants, Giuseppe's and Union Tavern, which replaced the old Reunion Inn. It was nice to see that come back to life. So it's nice that we're replacing what's been with what could be in the future, and it's always nice to see those parcels redeveloped. And I think you're going to see more activity along the Ridge Road corridor, particularly in the next year. Some of those long, I hate to say those pharmacies that if I had a crystal ball, we would not have built so many damn pharmacies in town 15, 20 years ago. And you know, we're left with them now. Walgreens merged with, I don't even know, Rite Aid, whatever, CVS. But you know, those are good corners, and we want to see them redeveloped. And we certainly look to be a partner. We've worked with a few developers who have bought them, and I think the good thing is now the folks who are interested in that development aren't doing so on speculation. They're starting to see, here's what we could use that for. So my hope is at the very least one or two of those corners will be redeveloped within the next year. And as always, I-Square continues to be, I think, a success story for the area. It's given the town a good image, I think, and certainly I hope everyone's visited the new brewery. I joke, two years ago, after 2017, when I won re-election, my mother came up to me, and my parents, my family has embraced the craft brewery scene, and my mother, who used to drink no beer, now drinks 12% Russian Imperial Stout. If there's any case study of how the craft brewing industry can change somebody's, get somebody engaged, it's her. But she looked at me plainly and said, "Why don't we have a brewery in Irondequoit?" You know, at one point 3 years ago, they were opening up every week, it seemed. And I said, "Well, Mom, just so you know, the town doesn't start a brewery. We don't have town-owned breweries." And she looked at me and said, "When are you up for re-election again?" And she didn't say it, but I know what she was implying, that if I ran again, and we didn't ever. So thankfully, the brewery opened up two months before the last year's election, and I think she voted for me, but she made it clear. But anyway, it was nice to have that addition. I think it's been successful. That project continues with some senior housing being built in the back of the brewery. So to continue to see I-Square, meet its metrics and continue to see those additions to the community is a positive sign. I think this is right because Rich just validated it. Rich Orzik, who is a realtor. I think our real estate market continues to be strong. It's been a success story, I think, the past few years. We're part of the 14609 zip code, which landed on Realtor.com's top 10 list of hottest zip codes in the U.S. I have no idea how they came up with that metric. I'm not going to dispute it. So it was a nice boon for our town. Certainly we share that with the city. But I live in 14609. It has terrific neighborhoods. But the good thing is in the 14617 and 22, you're seeing the median sale price continue to rise over the past 3 years. It's probably gone up, I would say 15 to 20%. Depends on what metric you use. I'll also note, because not that I have no role in assessing properties, but I'm always mindful of how accurate our assessed value is. But if you really look at the 2008 reassessment and how that changed all of the town's assessed value of their homes, if you look for what those homes are selling for, it is a significant delta, generally between 10 and 12% on average, the sale price versus the assessed value. And that just goes to show you growth, right? We assessed in 2018, and it's nice to see that we might have been a little under, but let's also continue upward motion on the sale price. And I always say, and I hope this continues, and I have anecdotally, it's good signs. But if you're a young couple looking to buy your first home, start your family, the goal is always to have Irondequoit be the first or second community on your list. I think a lot of times now people pick the community before they pick the house, and our goal is to make sure that we're positing ourselves as the number one or two alternative for people as they're first buying a community or picking a community, then buying a house. I focus on young couples because obviously they're a major part of our housing market, but also our goal is to continue to allow our seniors to age in place. And Irondequoit really does. We've done a nice job, and this is really kind of one of our legacies because we've traditionally had an older senior population, but we continue to be a town that really is proactive in trying to make sure our community is a place where seniors can age and stay and grow, continue to live near their children and grandchildren. It's challenging in Irondequoit, as you know. There's between 1940 and 1960, they basically built the same center entrance colonial throughout the whole town. So our housing stock is lovely and affordable, but for our aging population, it's not conducive to aging in place. That's why you see the patio homes in the outer suburbs become so attractive for seniors. With our community development program, we continue to make focused investments to allow people to have the ability to age in place, to live independently. We're partnering this year with the United Way of Rochester to enhance our senior transportation program, to replace what I think is an outdated model of having to schedule a few days in advance and really being limited to the types of transportation and what it can be used for. We're going to go more to a mobility management model that will use all types of transportation outlets, including Uber and Lyft. So our goal in 2020 is to teach our older population perhaps how to use that technology, but also really the good thing is you can now, it can remain calling a number for that, and you can have someone arrange the ride. But our goal is to meet the demand and expand the demand for things like that. So we're always looking to modify how we provide those services for our seniors. To my credit, to the credit of my colleagues on the town board, making senior housing and increasing senior housing options continues to be a priority. And our goal is not to lose Irondequoit residents because they can't find adequate housing to age in place. Some seniors might be able to stay in their house to their 70s, 80s. I would say most probably need to transition, and St. Anne's does a great job and fulfills a certain market, but there's other markets and other demographics and other income cohorts that we need to make sure we're ensuring that people have those options here in Irondequoit. So the town board, sometimes it's not always unanimously favored by the community or perhaps some people who live near there, but the town board does balance, I think, the need to redevelop a parcel with the needs of the community. So they've made some to their credit, some pretty bold land use decisions regarding zoning, knowing that senior housing is a priority. That started with the Durand Senior Apartments at the end of Culver. You're going to see, as I mentioned, the Pathstone senior housing come online hopefully next year, and other projects, and really one that was just approved by the town board of the old Wambach property, and some others in the pipeline too. And again, we think about these strategically. We don't just think we'll take anything, right? We really let it be known to the development community that senior housing is a need, and we want to make sure that we're providing those options to allow people to stay in Irondequoit. So that's a little bit kind of on the development side of what's coming coming out or new things coming to Irondequoit. At Town Hall, our goal is always to increase the return on your tax dollars. It's hard to measure, but our goal is to keep taxes, hold the line on taxes while continuing to have an upward trend on what we're providing to our residents. And we continue to do that in both strategic, small and large efforts. I'm proud, and this is the time of year where it's funny, people pay their taxes at Town Hall. They also pay their school taxes at Town Hall, Mary and Aaron. So you're welcome for that, because I don't think they come down to the district office all the time afterwards. But certainly when people are paying their taxes, they're probably in their mind of what am I getting in return for that. And so we historically get a lot of people coming up asking about the road this time of year, and it remains a challenge. And I had a friend up here who's lived, I think they moved right out of college. They moved down to North Carolina, and it was last weekend. And he looked at me and he just said, probably saw some potholes, and I think we were on 590 actually, and he just said, the odds are against you here with regards to infrastructure. It's very challenging with the weather, a whole host of other components. Our roads really do take a beating, and maintaining them is a priority. And we've tried to implement a strategic plan to ensure that our roads are getting touched between every 5 and 8 years. We're spending twice as much on paving, which everyone wants the pave job, right? Twice as much, by some measures, if you count last year, we actually spent 3 times more than we did in 2014. But we're also doing other measures for maintenance, including, not everyone likes the chip sealing, the oil and stone, but oil and stone really is one of the most effective ways to long-term maintain that infrastructure. People yell at us, we'll pave their road in 3 years, come back with oil and stone, but that's actually a best practice to ensure that those roads are not pervious. The goal is to, when you pave a road, you have that seam down the middle. That's why someone came and yelled at me and why we're making the road so ugly by doing I forget the term, the crack seal, I think it is, in the middle of the road. That's to keep the moisture out from getting into that seam, which creates potholes. So it's a dynamic challenge, maintaining those roads, but one that I think Commissioner Kiley has done a nice job to really get a sustainable, implementable plan that the town board has bought into. We are spending more in our budget on paving, and that's a good thing. That's money well spent in my mind. We're also investing in infrastructure you don't see. There's some random areas in town that don't have storm sewers, and as a result, whether the snow melts or you get heavy rainfall, the roads just flood. And there's a road in the Winona Woods neighborhood, Catalpa, and for whatever reason, when they were building that neighborhood, they just skipped them as far as building a storm sewer. So if you live on Catalpa, you really get some disgusting impact of just a simple rainfall. So we're going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just on Catalpa, but other neighborhoods that traditionally have not had that storm sewer, and that's good for our roads. That's money well spent, because when you have pooling water, it's just going to destroy that road. So we're looking to make those investments in infrastructure. And one other big infrastructure item I'll talk about, we in moving our DPW, what I'll get to in a bit, we now have a massive is a relative term in Irondequoit, right? A relatively large swath of land in back of Town Hall, and probably later this year we're going to commence a community effort to determine how best to use that land. I don't think you're going to see anything come out of the earth, mainly because there's environmental issues and a lot of it is fill. But we would like to continue to enhance the park amenity that is behind Town Hall. I always said, we have a beautiful Town Hall. I hated that this industrial artery kind of ran through the core of it. So you've got the nice parkland that surrounds Town Hall, you got the library, and then in the back you had this really not very attractive site, and it was a necessity. It was our DPW, but we're looking to transform that into something probably passive-aggressive, perhaps some passive recreation, passive recreation that continues to enhance our park amenities. Probably some more parking for the library as well, but those are decisions that'll be made, I think, through community input. I personally would love a dog park. Our insurance company does not want a dog park, but I would very much like a dog park. But that's something we're looking and excited about. So that's kind of things we're planning for. One thing I'm proud of at Town Hall is we continue to meet the challenges that confront us. In October, we opened up a new highway department headquarters, DPW headquarters, over off of Ridge Road. That really is, if you ask any local highway commissioners, it really is one of the nicest facilities for that use in upstate New York. And I'm proud that we took that adversity that the Christmas Eve fire from 3 years ago, 3+ years ago brought, and we emerged from that to have such a fine facility that will better serve our residents. And I said the day we opened that facility, we were a more effective, efficient operation. And it's been a rough winter, and I think that has come bear fruit. I think I said in 2017 our goal was to be open before the first snowfall in 2019. To be safe, we set November 1st as that date. If you remember, it snowed, I think, November 9th. We had a major snowfall, so we were in there at that time, and you can never be too certain in upstate New York. Another issue, another sign of adversity, not for the town particularly, but for a lot of our residents, is the challenges with the continued flooding down by the shore, the bay, the river, and the lake. And 2017 probably hit us a little bit by surprise. 2019, we saw it coming, we're a little bit better prepared. And now in 2020, we're starting to hear numbers like 250 feet. To put some in context, it peaked last year at 249 feet. And when you start hearing on conference calls, the Army Corps of Engineers say that 250 feet isn't a certainty, but the trajectory is above where it was last year. It's very alarming. So, I mean, obviously our goal is to continue to be there from an emergency response component with our residents. We partnered very well with the county and the state. The state has done a fantastic job of providing those resources, and will continue to do so. You're probably going to see us be in a state of emergency, either the town, county, or state. Hopefully the state, because it makes it easier. Through much of the spring and summer this year, I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, if the boat launch down by the bay is closed again for much of the boating season. But again, taking that adversity, the state has created a massive initiative called the READY Initiative, Resilience Economic Development, $300 million initiative that Irondequoit is, I think, the recipient of more funds than any other municipality to implement resiliency projects. And some of those are, I say, the non-sexy projects. They're pump stations, they're stormwater evacuation systems that help make sure that A, our sanitary sewers are being overwhelmed, but B, our storm sewer is able to evacuate the water back into the river in some cases, most particularly by O'Loughlin's at the end of the St. Paul terminus. One project I'm very excited about is a $2.6 million project through mostly state funding to not only make the area by the boat launch more resilient, raise the parking lot, raise the boat launch, but also add some recreational amenities that we wanted to do for a long time, namely some transient docking, perhaps a boardwalk along that area if the budget allots, kayak launches, things like that. I always say we want to be able to, the boat launch is great, but we want to make sure everyone has access to that water. So providing those recreational amenities, I think, is a goal for us. And this state initiative really has given us that opportunity. So we want to make sure make sure we are taking advantage of it. So that's kind of how we've risen to our challenges. It's funny, I wanted to just point this out because I've had a lot of people come up to me in the wake of the Rochester City School District budget challenges and just ask plainly, what do you do to prevent that from happening in Irondequoit? And we do probably what most other organizations do in large entities or businesses, is make sure that our budget is realistic, in line with reality, and we're not letting our heart probably get in the way of our head sometimes. So I tell people I would very much like to add 15 police officers to our police force. I don't know if we need that many police officers, but I can't do that just by adding 15 new officers during the middle of the year. You need a revenue affixed to that. And our goal is to not significantly increase revenue, because most of that comes from our tax base. So the town's board's primary job is to be managing the town finances, most of which again comes from your tax dollars. And I'm proud that the comptroller just recently lowered our fiscal stress report, our fiscal stress level, whatever it's called, to the lowest it's been, I think, since he started the assessment. Our credit rating continues to be strong. Our fund balance continues to be strong. But mainly our cash flow projections are what we pay attention to. It's just as any business organization does. We're looking 12 months out to make sure a large decision we make now doesn't create issues in 10 months. And we have very good financial staff. We lost a long-term comptroller, Andy Seeley, to retirement, but her number 2 came in, Diana Marsh, and they do an extraordinary job. But again, we're always looking for ways to make town hall, a leaner and meaner, I would say. One decision we made was to elect to move over to a healthcare consortium, the Finger Lakes Municipal Healthcare Consortium, which I made the case to our workforce. And there's always, when you're changing a healthcare provider, there's always skepticism for the workforce, is that you're trying to save money, or it's going to adversely benefit the workforce. Well, that's not true, because if you look at the curve, there's a pretty consistent share of healthcare costs for our workforce, and we try to keep that competitive. But when the cost of health insurance goes up, it goes up the same amount for us as it does our workforce. So our goal is to have a more affordable product that maintains the level of insurance in healthcare. So we've done that. In long term, it's probably going to result in some negative healthcare rate increases over the next few years, which we're not excited about, but it will certainly help from a budgeting point of view. I just wanted to touch on a few other initiatives. Let's see. Ooh, I'm over. I'll wrap up really quick. One thing I wanted to highlight, I was talking about this with Tamara, is my ladies, is our need to make sure that we're keeping our housing stock vibrant. We had a lot of vacant properties in this town. I'd say several years ago we probably had about 500. We've done a nice job managing them. We were the only town in Monroe County, and one of only a few in upstate New York to be selected for a Attorney General initiative called Zombie 2.0, Zombie Homes. That's really going to allow us, to better, even more efficiently manage those properties, but also, pursuant to a state law, allow us to go after some of the institutions that haven't been following that state law and perhaps recapture some money. Because I think everyone knows, when you have one zombie home, it has an exponential threat in the neighborhood. So our goal is to continue to get those houses back online. And I think you're starting to see that. I hope people are seeing less of those vacant homes. I always used to say, for every one we got back on, two came off, and now I think that ratio is more favorable. One thing I'll just say, actually two things, and then I'm done. The census is very important this year. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but a lot of federal funding for the town is at stake. If we dip below 50,000 in population, that could happen, and then I'll have to beg the federal government. But it's very important just to get word out there, whether it's through your networks, the importance of the census. Most of it is being done online this year, and then the folks who don't do it online will be getting the visits to their home. But it's very important for the town of Irondequoit, and I'll continue to underscore that over the next few months and let that be known. Another thing, who here thinks we have, and I don't know if you're in your neighborhood, if you live in Irondequoit, if you get frustrated having one waste hauler on Monday, another waste hauler on Tuesday, and another on Wednesday, one thing we're looking to do this year is promote the creation of refuse districts. That's when residents come together to create a district. It actually becomes a taxing district. So the bad news is your taxes go up a little bit. The good news is, hopefully your refuse collection fees you would pay Waste Management or Casella go down even larger. So it's a net benefit for the town. Other towns have done it, Pittsford, Brighton. I really think it's a good opportunity, not just for your pocketbook, but also for those environmental concerns, not having 3 different waste haulers, their trucks going through a neighborhood 3 times a week. And also, Commissioner Kiley's very excited because it's less heavy truck traffic on our neighborhood. So we'll probably be unveiling that in the next few days, just information, the process for residents. It's largely a grassroots process that the residents work with us on getting the districts formed, but something we're excited about. We're going to kind of test fit it, alpha, beta test it, and perhaps we might look to do it larger, proactively in the few years. And that's really all I have. I'm sorry I'm long-winded. I probably talked too long about the mall, but welcome to a glimpse into my brain, right? But I just want to thank everyone. I appreciate this opportunity, and as always, you know where to find me. I don't know if I have time for questions. I don't think I do. So with that, I just want to thank you all very much. Have a very healthy new year, and I always appreciate the partnership with all of you. So thank you.